Welcome to today's podcast episode. I'm David, and in this episode, we're diving into the complex and crucial topic of U.S. foreign aid restructuring. Over the last few years, there's been growing debate about how the U.S. allocates foreign aid and whether it's time for a major change. Let's break down what's happening, why it matters, and how it could affect global politics and U.S. interests. Before we discuss restructuring, let's first define what U.S. foreign aid is. Foreign aid refers to the financial assistance the U.S. government provides to other countries. This includes everything from humanitarian aid, like disaster relief, to development aid, which helps nations build infrastructure, health systems, and education. IT also encompasses military assistance and economic support to bolster allies or promote peace in regions of strategic interest to the U.S. The total amount the U.S. spends on foreign aid fluctuates, but it's generally about 1% of the federal budget. However, the impact of that 1% is far-reaching. In 2025, the Trump administration introduced a proposal to overhaul the U.S. foreign aid system, aiming to make it more efficient, targeted, and aligned with American geopolitical interests. Under the new structure, the proposal suggests shifting from traditional humanitarian projects to prioritizing U.S. national security, economic interests, and global competition with powers like China and Russia. Critics argue that this could lead to cutting assistance to nations in need in favor of strategic partnerships with countries that can directly benefit the U.S. For example, U.S. aid to countries like Israel, Egypt, and Afghanistan might be refocused to maximize military alliances, while aid to poorer regions in Africa could be reduced. These shifts are causing a stir in the global community. So why is there a push for restructuring foreign aid? There's several key reasons. First, geopolitical competition. The U.S. faces growing competition from China, which has increased its influence through initiatives like the Belt and Road Initiative. This has made U.S. policymakers rethink how foreign aid can be used as a tool for countering China's rise. The second reason is efficiency and accountability. Many argue that the current system of foreign aid is inefficient and that U.S. taxpayer dollars aren't always used effectively. In fact, a 2024 audit found that a significant portion of U.S. aid doesn't always reach the intended beneficiaries or isn't spent in a way that promotes long-term sustainable development. In some cases, aid funds get caught in bureaucratic red tape, and large-scale projects often fail to address the root causes of poverty. So, the restructuring aims to make the process more results-oriented and focused on tangible outcomes. Now let's look at the possible benefits of restructuring. First, more targeted assistance. The proposal suggests focusing on projects that directly benefit U.S. interests, like trade agreements, military cooperation, or infrastructure projects in strategic regions. For example, U.S. aid to Central America could be linked to stronger trade agreements, which would help improve the U.S. economy. The second advantage is streamlining aid distribution. With fewer intermediaries and a focus on efficiency, the U.S. government hopes to cut down on corruption and ensure that funds are used where they will have the greatest impact. One potential success story could be U.S. investment in the African continent, where China has been heavily investing. If the U.S. focuses on creating stronger, mutually beneficial trade partnerships, it could shift the power balance in the region. However, restructuring also has its downsides. First, humanitarian concerns. If the U.S. starts focusing more on strategic and economic interests, we could see cuts in aid to countries that are struggling with severe humanitarian crises, like those in sub-Saharan Africa or Syria. The second downside is the potential backlash from international communities. Countries that were previously dependent on U.S. aid might feel abandoned, which could sour diplomatic relations. For instance, if aid to countries like Venezuela or Cuba is reduced in favor of more strategic allies, it could foster resentment. Example: consider a country like Yemen, which has faced a devastating humanitarian crisis. If the U.S. focuses primarily on military partnerships or economic agreements with other nations, this could leave countries like Yemen in the cold, leading to further instability. The restructuring of U.S. foreign aid has the potential to significantly reshape global politics. If the U.S. shifts its focus, it might see stronger ties with countries like India or Ukraine, where the geopolitical stakes are high. However, this could also lead to a decline in U.S. soft power. Humanitarian aid has long been a symbol of America's commitment to global welfare, and reducing that could damage the U.S.'s global image, particularly in developing nations. The U.S. could find itself losing ground to China and Russia in Africa, South America, or parts of Asia if aid programs are cut in favor of military support or economic deals with strategic partners. Looking ahead, the question remains, what will the future of U.S. foreign aid look like? As geopolitical tensions increase, particularly with China and Russia, it's likely that U.S. foreign aid will continue to evolve. There could be more emphasis on economic diplomacy and development assistance linked to trade deals, military agreements, or international cooperation on issues like climate change. But it's also possible that the U.S. may push for reforms that make the system more transparent and accountable, focusing on projects that align more closely with American values. A growing trend is corporate involvement in foreign aid, where U.S. companies partner with governments to deliver aid or participate in infrastructure development, blending business interests with foreign policy goals. In conclusion, while the restructuring of U.S. foreign aid has its advantages, it also raises serious questions about the balance between strategic interests and humanitarian responsibility. It will be interesting to see how this issue unfolds, especially as we move into the next election cycle. What do you think about the restructuring of foreign aid? Do you think it's a smart move for the U.S., or are there significant risks involved? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for listening to today's podcast. If you enjoyed this discussion, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more episodes. Until next time, I'm David. Take care and stay informed.